All right, everybody. We have our guest today. His name, how do you prefer that?
Conrad Rivero, but Conrad.
Conrad. And his lovely daughter, Frankie's here. Thanks for coming. Do you have the day off of school, or how are you here?
Yes, the afternoon off.
Nice. Well, welcome to our school. You're welcome.
You guys, thank you. My name is Conrad Rivero. If anybody calls me Mr. Rivero, I will hand you my dad's phone number, and you can call him, because he's Mr. Rivero. My name is Conrad. I first got introduced to this program through a guy named Mark Stegan, who runs the Youth Business Alliance, or maybe started in Vegas. And they brought a group of students to Google not too long ago, and he said, hey, would you want to come out and meet some of the students that are out of the high schools? I said, heck yeah. So thank you guys for having me in. It's super fun to get out of work and get my daughter out of school and come down and see you guys. They said this is mostly me just talking about myself, which is probably the least interesting thing that I can think to talk about. Hopefully we'll get to talk a little bit more about you, and I can share a little bit about how I got to be where I'm at, and I'll tell you a bit about where I'm at. And we can put it in the context of what you guys are doing here, what you're learning, what your dreams are, and maybe I can even give you some hints on how I made it work. I'm not even sure if I made it work. But anyway, I'm here, and I work at Google, and it's cool. So I was trying to think of when you're doing, this is my first hint, when you're doing a presentation, do the title slide last. Because it's not until you're done with it that you even know what the heck you're going to talk about. So I literally sat here and I made this PowerPoint, and they give you a template to do this, and like I downloaded the template, and let me just be quite honest, it was terrible. So I just threw that away and decided I was going to do what I wanted to do, which Mark said was totally appropriate. He's like, you can do whatever you want to do. So basically, unfortunately, you have an hour of me doing whatever the heck it is that I want to, and this is what showed up. And you write the title slide last because you don't know what the presentation is until it's done. And that's a little bit like your life. If I asked you when you were 6 years old to write a title slide that was going to encompass your grade school, middle school, and high school, and then what you want to do when you're in college, can you imagine how ridiculous that would sound? What would the presentation look like? I want to play with my friends. Like, my life is about dolls. Like, it would be the worst, if I asked you at 6 years old or 7 years old to write me a presentation around, hey, I want you to really tell me about like what the next 12 years are going to be like. When you're 6 years old, you're like, we're going to play with dolls. It would just be literally the worst thing in the world. And you'd be 18 and you'd be like, oh my God. So instead, it's better to write the title slide when you're done, right? And you guys are pretty, what are you guys, freshmen? Juniors? All juniors?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you still have time to write the title slide for what your last 4 years have been like. And you at least have a pretty good hint about hopefully what the next 4 or 5 years are going to look like as well. So that's my first advice. Don't write the title slide until you're done with the presentation, because you just don't know. And you're even at the junior stage, you still have a whole year to make things happen and to hustle. And I imagine you're now deeply thinking about what comes next after high school. If you're not, you should be.
They just took a practice SAT today.
Oh my gosh. That was awesome, wasn't it? The worst. I don't even know what that test looks like now, but I know what it looked like in 1980. It's on. Let's just put it this way. We took it with a pen, or a pencil, and a Scantron form because there were no other options. So it's not like we had the internet back then. No, literally, we didn't have the internet back then. You're all clear on that, right? Yes. I got my first email address during my second senior year of college. I had 3. All right, so at the end, I said, this is how I created my dream career. And then I subtitled it, How I Got Hired by Google in 42 Steps, each one of them lasting a year. If you know how to do math, you've just figured out how old I am. All right, so I'm going to start with a, hey Frank, can you hit one of those lights? Either one's fine. I'm going to start with I'm just going to say something. The world's changed, right? And it's one of those things that if somebody tells you, like, hey man, the world's really changed, it's either so impossibly broad, like I've just said something that's so broad that it's not even useful. Hey, the world's changed. Yeah, no kidding. Like, literally you woke up and when you go to bed, like, the world will have changed. Like, a bunch of people have been born, a bunch of people have died, some wars, some peace, like a lot of stuff happens every day. So if I say the world's changed, your response is, to anybody who says that should be no kidding. But the world has changed. And I'm going to put it in a very, very specific context for you as you're wrapping up your high school, getting into your junior year and looking ahead to what comes after high school. Because I want to put this in a very specific, give you a very specific point of view of what I mean when I say the world has changed. And at this point, you get to hit play. Oh, I think I muted that. Oh, there we
go. All of this activity that's happened around this song is your doing, and I just want to say thanks.
Seeing all the YouTubes of the little girls singing Let It Go is spectacular.
I'm a big user, Gangnam Style just became the first YouTube video to get more than 2 billion views.
Gonna mix this on a medium speed.
Hey Laura! I can spin around! Click right here to subscribe to our channel and click right here and I will fall in love with you, guaranteed.
Hey guys, so
We're going to be rapping, so we're really excited.
What you got here?
We'd like to offer our firstborn child.
You're about to get shit!
One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world.
'Cause you're a sky full of stars. You can really get your voice out there, not just to your own country, but to the whole world.
Every piece of that video that you saw has one thing in common. Every single thing you saw has one thing in common. What is it?
They were all posted on YouTube?
I do this, I give this slide to some of the smartest marketers in the world who come to Google, and nobody gets that right. And you know why you got it right?
Why?
Because you're what, 16?
Yeah.
Because you're 16. Because you know what? 55-year-old chief marketing officers, 45-year-old vice presidents, they don't give a shit at all. You know what that makes you?
Smarter than them?
Doesn't make you smarter. It doesn't make you smarter. You're not, I guarantee you, you're not smarter than a 55-year-old CMO. But what it makes you is valuable. And you, and you, and you. Because even if you didn't raise your hand, you guys know that all happened on YouTube. Who knows who Bethany Mother is? Yeah, you know who Bethany Mother is, right? None of the chief marketing officers know who she is. Do you know how many followers she has on YouTube? 7 million? 6 million, 5 million, something like that. Do you know how many people watch a typical cable TV show? 3 million? Bethany Mota is bigger than the biggest cable TV shows, just except for maybe Game of Thrones, right? These guys don't know who she is. You guys know who. You guys saw that, and the first thing you thought is like, yeah, it happened on YouTube. YouTube's for you. YouTube's always been around. You're 16, and it started 9 years ago, so it's always been there. For her, she's never known a world without YouTube. You can think about that. This platform that has 1 billion users. It's only been around for 9 years, and it's totally transformed the way people think and do business. Google search. Has anybody in this room not used Google search? Okay, of course you have. How about today? Most of you used it probably today. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm sure there's others that you use that I'm totally clueless about. These are things you use, if not every single day, at least every week. Certainly if I was asking you to do a paper for school, and I said, okay, but here's the thing, you can't use the internet, you'd be like, I'm done, I quit, right? This is stupid. And you'd be right. It would be pointless. We used to have to do it, but it meant we had to work really hard to put in work that probably wasn't as good. So when I say the world's changed, what I mean is you guys are rolling into the workforce, rolling into college and eventually the workforce. No, not as smart. I'm sorry. It's very difficult for a 16-year-old, unless you're like some savant at math, to be as smart as somebody who has a lot of experience. But what you have is a great deal of value. And so what I hope we'll take away by the time we're done here is when you roll into the world, there's going to be a bunch of old people like me, and let's be quite honest, at 42, by the time I'm ready to hire you guys, I'm going to be like, I don't understand stuff at all. And you're going to have lived it and breathed it and understand that like the world has radically changed from, keep in mind, when I was 16, there were 4 channels, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox kind of sucked, but it was there. And then you had cable, but cable was really expensive, and it was really just no commercial cable. It was like HBO and stuff. There was not like broad cable with hundreds of channels. So it was a very different landscape when we think about business. And I'm just talking about media. I'm just talking about stuff you can consume, entertainment, ways you can communicate. We didn't have Facebook, and we didn't have Twitter, Instagram, nothing. What we had was the phone and the phone. And it wasn't even a cell phone, so it was horrible. So that's the world you guys are living in, and I want you to remember that as much as you are going to one day need a job, companies like Google and great companies around the world need you because you have your finger on the pulse of the way the world works now. I'm not kidding. I show that and people are like, I mean, I see the fear in the minds of like these older executives who are like, this world has just completely changed. So it's a great advantage for you guys because digital is totally transforming life. And if you take away something from this about how you think about moving forward into college, moving forward in your careers, every way you should frame your thinking is around digital and is around mobile. Because it doesn't matter what you do, whether you're going into entertainment, or you're going into medicine, or you're going into the law, or you're going into construction, I don't care what it is, digital is transforming life. So my job is to help my clients bring stories to fans and help Google change the world. What I mean by that is my clients are all entertainment. I work for Google, and Google owns YouTube, so I get to sell ads on Google and YouTube. And really what that means is my clients are Fox Motion Pictures and Universal. My team works with Sony Motion Pictures and Disney and all these really cool broadcasts, NBC and CBS and CW and such. And we help them tell the stories about their movies and get you excited to go and see them. Who's seen a movie lately? I'm just curious to know what you guys have seen. What did you see? Annabelle. Oh, okay, a horror movie. That was one of my competitors' movies. Was it good? Was it scary? Not really? Conjuring is scary though. What did you see? Oh, your mom. Okay. Anything else? I'm just curious what other movies you guys have seen. People go out to the movies? Don't make a liar out of the stats. I know some of you see some movies. Or do you just sit at home streaming Netflix?
Yes.
Okay. And then my job is also to help Google change the world because I work for a company that has the ability to do things that are frankly magical. I think most people, I'll throw it out at you. What do you guys think of when you think of Google? Surely you've heard of us. We're in the news once in a while. What do you think of? No wrong answers because we do everything.
Search engine?
Search engine, right. I mean, at its core, what we do is it's a search engine. We help people find things. It's the simplest website in the world, man. It's just literally a text box and a logo. It doesn't get simpler than that. It's not complicated. What else? Maps, yeah, sure. Best thing we ever bought. Yeah, map technology. I mean, people use Google Maps all the time. And even if it's not Google Maps, people license Google Maps to do other cool things. Say again? Send email, sure. Gmail. Does anybody have a Gmail account? Most of us, yeah? I know you do. I made it the day you were born. Yeah, sure. Gmail, the most used map. What else? What do you use to get to Google Maps? Chrome browser, right? We have the Chrome browser. It has the highest browser penetration of any browser in the market. What else?
Google Drive.
Google Drive, very good. Yeah, you get to use collaborative documents on Google Drive, all the spreadsheets and the Word docs and such, and storage. Ridiculous amounts of storage. I have on my corporate account 10 terabytes of storage. And if I need more, they just give me more. It's great. I can put like every movie in the world on my drive. But that would be illegal, so I don't. Yes. Google Earth, yeah, Google Earth, which they've now folded into Maps, so it's all just one big geo package. Yeah, you guys have nailed it. Let me get really deep in the weeds here. Anybody ever hear of Nest? So we bought Nest this year, or late last year, for $3.5 billion with a B dollars. Nest makes smart devices for the home. So at some point, you're going to have a thermostat you control with your smartphone, and it's going to learn over time your patterns of when you come and go, and you're always going to come home to a house that's just the right temperature, and when you leave, it's going to let that temperature drift up so we don't waste energy. And when all these hotels and homes have smart thermostats, we're going to save billions and billions of tons of coal and carbon because we're going to like heat and cool more efficiently. So we bought Nest so we can have efficient devices in the home. I think a lot of people know Google Glass, the wearable computer, and now we have Samsung, we have the Android devices, and then Android. Android is owned by Google. We do all the computing devices. So Google is in a position, has anybody ever heard of our self-driving cars?
Yes.
We're making self-driving cars. So has anybody heard of Project Iris? We make contact lenses. We made the technology and we licensed it to Bausch & Lomb, I think.
Is it contact lens?
It's a contact lens that measures the blood glucose of people with
like
diabetes.
yes.
So if you have diabetes right now, you have to prick your finger a handful of times a day to measure blood glucose so that you can take your medicine, insulin, and monitor, right? We now have a contact lens that measures your blood glucose 100 times a second. So we always are right on top of you. So it's a great thing for diabetics. They don't have to prick their finger, and they get an accurate read all the time right to their smartphone. So when people think of Google, they think of a search engine, obviously. They might think of YouTube, they might think of Maps. But really, we're a company that's trying to change the world in so many ways. And what I do, because how many of you have paid, how many of you, like, what do you pay to use Google search? Nothing. YouTube? Drive? Maps? Nothing. It's a pretty crappy business model when you make all these great things and just give away, right? Like, how on earth do we make money? Does everybody know? Ads. Most of our money is made by ads. The vast majority is made by ads. And you know, there's a couple little other ways we make money, but it's like 8% of the 60 billion with a B dollars we're going to make this year. Right? It's just a small percentage. The most of it is ads. And we turn that money around and we do things that nobody else can do. So for me, the way I think about it is I help my clients tell stories to fans about movies, which is pretty fun, but really I'm helping Google do things that no company in the history of the world has ever been able to do. So what does that mean? I sell ads that go on Google, YouTube, and the web. That's not going to get you out of bed in the morning. That's kind of, like, sell ads. That's what I tell my mom. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I sell ads. Got it. Okay. What does it really mean? I consult the biggest studios in Hollywood and I bring their stories to life in digital marketing. When you see, not just an ad on search, although you might, but when you see an ad on YouTube, or when you see a really cool digital execution on YouTube, or maybe you see it on the web or in Chrome or something like that, we're working with them on some really good stuff. So it's a very, very different world, and it's a world you guys know well. You nailed so many of the things we did. We do at Google, and you saw that video, and you recognized so many of the people in that video, and you got it, that that's what the world is today, and it's all happening. Google, search engine, 15 years old. Yeah, 15 years old this year. YouTube's 9. I mean, these things haven't been around that heck of a long time. Been around most of your lives, but for us, I don't know how old you are. For me, I'm just like, yeah, I literally got an email address at the end of college. And we were like, whoa. I mean, we were just like, this is insane. Oh, wow, I can't believe it. I don't even know what we did. I can't believe I ever had any fun. So, things we'll cover today, who I am, how I got here, what I do, and why any of that matters to you. Because the reality is, don't ever listen to anybody unless it's what they're saying sounds either reasonably true or useful to you. And even if they're like, I'm really important. Let's be honest, I didn't start Google. I worked there, but it's still 39,000 people. So hopefully I can prove to you that there's some credibility in what I have to say. So first, a little bit about me. Like I said, I don't know that it's particularly interesting, but they asked me to do it. So I'll tell you a little bit about me and kind of how I got here to standing in front of you today. So I would ask you this. How would you introduce the person that you care about the most? Like, or just a friend, right? Are you two friends? Reasonably good friends? Okay. I've never met her. Introduce her.
I know Sean Cheryl. She's very...
Just like at a party, like I'm coming up, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Hey, Samantha, what's up? Oh, hey. It's like introducing her else, it's awkward. So I'm standing here. You don't know? You're good. You don't know anything about it? But you just say, hey, this is my friend Chantrell. She's going to go on this really good. Okay. Most of us would introduce it, like, I'll tell you, at work, it's like this. Somebody comes up to you, and you go, like, this is like if she worked with me. I'm like, oh, what's your name? Louisa. I'm like, oh, this is Louisa. We work together in sales. She's my account manager. Like, suddenly Louisa's an account manager, right? So the person I care about, or maybe care about the most, hey, this is Conrad, who works in sales at Google. Like, if I, are you really taking notes on that? Jesus, guys, you already know that one. Literally, that should not be a surprise. If that's a surprise, we need to really restart this whole thing. If somebody, yeah, it's with a K. That's spelled correctly. That's not misspelled. I'm good. I'm good that way. I spell my name right. Been working on it for 42 years. If somebody introduces me that way, it's just like, okay, he works at Google. But what if we want to get a little bit further and we say, this is Conrad. He's a great dad. Is that true? Loves to do triathlons, and he works at Google. Now we know a little bit more about Conrad. We know he's like, he loves his daughter, and he does. Now remember, the person you care about the most in this world, I'm telling you this right now, is you. You love your mom, you love your dad, you probably love your brother and sister, you might love your friends, maybe you have a boyfriend, girlfriend. The person you love the most, or at least you should, and if you don't, you need to check yourself, it should be you. How would you introduce yourself to you? Would it be, hi, I'm Conrad, I work at Google, sales, that's pretty lame. Hey, it's Conrad, hi, I'm Conrad, I'm a great dad, I love doing triathlons, I work at Google. That's a little better, at least you know more about me, but what if this was the way you introduce yourself? What if it was, I don't just work at Google, and I'm not just a guy who does triathlons and work at Google, but I've created a life of purpose and meaning. I try to create a life where I don't want to sleep because my waking life is more important and more fun than my dreams. I spend time on things that matter with people who matter, and I try to seek truth, care about humanity, and I try to be kind. Also, I love my girlfriend too, she's awesome, and her little girl, Sophie. I crush it at work, probably maybe the ninth most important or interesting thing about me, and I'm always trying to have fun. Now, that is the way I'd want somebody who knows me well to introduce me. So, since this is the part where I get to talk about me, that's me. And I hope, as you walk out of here, what I'd love for you guys to spend some time doing for the rest of your life is think about how you want somebody to introduce you, how deeply they want you to know you, and what you want to project out to the world, whether that's a loved one, boyfriend, girlfriend, coworkers, teachers, people at school. Like, do you know yourself that well? Because you're going to have the rest of your life to think about that. And this is something I think about a lot. And it's what makes me, I think, pretty good at work. Because I know exactly who I am and how I want to introduce me. Because I'll be honest, I'm the person I care about the most. Actually, that's not true. It's second. She's number one. That's a fact. So that's a little bit about me. Do you have a question?
Yeah, may I ask a personal question?
Oh, no, I just threw this up here, but I only want to talk about work. Yes, of course. You can ask a personal question.
May you provide some examples of how you have fun, and if work is included, what at work specifically?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. God, when you said personal, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. You really scared me, but actually that wasn't that easy. Yeah, what does fun look like to me? And does it include work? Yeah, you know what, I gotta be honest, and this is just me. Some people can suffer through like crap work, like they can just do it for a paycheck. Maybe the paycheck's big and it's worth it to them. I can't. It's never been possible for me. My prior job at Google was at a video game company. I was a global marketing manager for Activision video games. It makes Call of Duty, it makes Guitar Hero and Destiny and all these games. Skylanders. That was fun. Worked for Disney before that for a number of years doing their DVD stuff, so I got to work at Disney. That was super fun. I had a job prior to that wasn't fun. I left it. So yeah, work's fun. It's not fun in the same way that like going to a concert's fun. So working with Google is pretty crazy. I mean, it's pretty cool. Fun for me is a lot of athletics. Like I do a lot of bike racing, triathlon, marathons. I hang out with my friends a lot. I'm really into music. We go to a lot of music. So that to me is fun. We would make a lot of time for that. You know what Burning Man is?
Yeah.
I went to Burning Man with my girlfriends for like 7 days. And so getting dusty and like really being hot and sleep deprived seems like fun. Yeah, so I mean those things to me, the number one thing, the common thread through all that is just being around people that I really enjoy. So I love my team at work. My boss is fantastic. My teammates are fantastic. So fun to me is just literally you can be doing kind of anything. Like, just hanging out at coffee with friends to me is really fun. I'm very motivated by people, and I get my energy from people. So anything I've ever done in work or personal life, whether it's sports or whatever, is around people. So I'll do these like ridiculous bike rides. We'll get really fit, and we'll be able to ride 90 miles on a bike. Just go like way out to like from the west side out to like Oxnard and back. People are like, that sounds ridiculous. I'm like, well, yeah, it's kind of stupid to ride your bike 90 miles an hour, but I'm with my friends, so it's really quite fun. So, man, seriously, you had me going like a personal question. But feel free, like this is about me, so if we're just talking about Google, it's gonna be, you can look that up. You can look it up on Bing or Yahoo. The Google jokes are pretty well worn, but those. So how did I get here? All right. There's a fantastic author named Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Anybody know? Colombian, won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 82, 83. Look him up. Please read some of him before you die. It's hard reading, but it's well worth it. Brilliant writer from Colombia. Book, I believe this is from 100 Years of Solitude. And the quote from Marquez in this, and he died recently, it was last year. And I got this in high school, and I've never forgot it, and I can do this for everyone. Human beings are not born once and for all on the day their mothers give birth to them. Instead, life obliges them over and over to give birth to themselves. What does that mean? I don't know if there's a wrong answer. I didn't write it. It's Marquez's. I interpret it. Anybody want to take a stab at it? I know you thought you'd be talking about business, but I'm talking about literature, so here we go. It's my hour, and you got to deal with that. They said I could talk about whatever I wanted, so here we go.
Do, please.
Yeah.
That you get multiple opportunities to define yourself.
Maybe you are smarter than those CMOs. I'm gonna check myself. You actually might be. Yeah. There's this belief in some people that you sort of are born and then you march through life like a zombie and you don't make any choices and stuff just kind of happens. My language is horrible. Sorry, I'm checking myself in front of my daughter and you and your teacher. Stuff happens to you and then you just sort of go with the flow and then you get what you get and hopefully it's pretty good. And I think that is frankly a BS way to live life. And so why this quote always resonated to me is, yeah, your mom popped you out at some point, 16 years ago, maybe 15, maybe 17, or 42. And you are not on some totally predetermined, inexorable march towards either happiness or misery or whatever, but it all ends in death. That's a really, really uninspiring way to think. Instead, what if you believe that you have a chance at multiple points in your life to give birth to yourself and create whoever the heck you want to be, right? That's a much more inspiring way to live. Because I'll tell you, as we talk about how I got here, because eventually we will, I've had a bunch of false starts, a bunch of mistakes, which are really important to me, and a bunch of real big wins, and my life today looks nothing like it looked 5 years ago. It looked nothing like that 10 years ago, and it looked nothing like it does now 20 years ago. You guys are 16, 20 years ago. 20 years from now, you won't even be my age. Think of how different your life was 10 years ago. You were 6 years old. Again, hopefully your life today is different. So you get a chance now that you're conscious, you're 6 years old, you just kind of do what you do. Now you guys are about to head off into the big, great world, and you have a chance to give birth to yourselves again. So again, what I want you to think about when you leave this room for the rest of your life is how you're going to give birth to yourself. And here's a little bit about how I did it. So, we know I'm a dad, I'm a good boyfriend. Well, I think I'm a good boyfriend. Athlete, I work at Google and stuff. I grew up, and this is embarrassing, and I swear to God, nobody's allowed to repeat this outside of this room. If I find out that anybody knows this and it came from here, I will come back and hunt you down. I was raised in Riverside. I was raised in Riverside. How tragic is that? Like the 909? Like, I didn't know how bad it was, and then like I grew up and I left and I came back and people were like, ooh, I'm like, I know. I went to middle school and high school on a small island outside of Seattle, so we had to take like a ferry boat to get to Seattle. We had a high school and stuff on the island. It wasn't like super, super rural, but it was pretty, you'll see a picture, it was really beautiful. But it was an island in the middle of a body of water, and we had to take a ferry boat. It was cool. I went to University of Washington, which is a big school up in Seattle. I don't know, has anybody ever visited Seattle? You been on campus at UW? Oh, okay.
No, I went to Seattle.
You went to Seattle. It's gorgeous. Looks nothing like LA.
Was your school, your high school, Bellevue?
No, that was the other direction. That was east from Seattle. Ours was west across Puget Sound. Yeah. No, that's very good. You know Bellevue. I spent better part of 8, almost 9 years doing commercial acting and modeling, which again is about as far away from Google as you could get, believe me. Then I went to business school to really reboot myself, and then I started this corporate career, which has been really, really interesting and fun. None of those things, I gave birth to myself 4 times, maybe 5 during this. So I spent the 70s growing up in Riverside. That's me, that's my little sister. I was really into swimming, so I had like all my patches for my swimming. That's me, and not my mom, but a very, very close family friend, but it's like a better picture than any of the pictures with my mom. So again, don't tell my mom that I put a thing with that. Okay. So spent the 70s growing up in Riverside. Then I moved to this beautiful island called Bainbridge near Seattle. This was just this summer. That's me holding like a giant crab that we found like in the water. You remember that? You loved that, didn't you? No, she hated it. But we're walking along these tide flats. It's absolutely the most gorgeous place you can't imagine. So I grew up on this island, and like we'd spend our afternoons like fishing for salmon and catching, crab and eating them for dinner. I mean, it was a crazy way it was a really fun way to grow up. So lived in this little island near Seattle. Spent 5, really, let's be honest, it was almost 7 years at University of Washington because I kept like taking time off to work and stuff. So it was a long path, but it was a state school, so it wasn't that expensive. And I was working, and I got through it, and I got a degree. It was a beautiful campus, a really good time. Then I spent over 8 years on my first career, which was doing television commercials. I got to do like all sorts of TV commercials, and I got to do catalogs, and I was on the cover of magazines, and it was pretty fun. I got to travel a lot. I spent a lot of time in New York, a lot of time in Miami, San Francisco. I went to Europe a few times, went to Australia. So I got to travel, work internationally. I got to work around the U.S., and it was pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot of fun. We got to just, it was cool. It was a really unexpected way to sort of make a living. You know Ricky Martin, the singer, right? I got to be in a commercial with him, and that was kind of fun. And then one day in the late 90s, late 1999, I realized this isn't getting me anywhere close to where I want to be. This is not, it was super fun, and then one day it wasn't, and it was time to give birth to myself again. And so I was like, okay, I got good grades in undergrad. I've been doing this while I saved some money. It's probably time to like get my act together and get back to school. So I went back to school, and I went to business school up at Pepperdine. Has anybody ever been up to the campus or by the campus up by now? Yeah, it's a gorgeous campus. Really good business school. What was cool was I had no business background. And here's, again, I'm not even doing these lessons in any kind of order, but one to take away is don't think because you haven't done something that you can't do it. You guys are like the cream of the crop, right? These are like the smartest kids. Yes. Okay, thank you. Yes. Humility is important, but don't lie. Like if you're smart, like I'm assuming, Mark's did. When I was doing this, when the class came to Google, man, I was like, whoa, you guys are really smart. So yes, thank you, I appreciate your honesty. Balance it with humility when you need to, but don't like be delusional that you're not smart. This guy I've already got him pegged for my future boss. He's like, so when I report to you, remember I was really nice to you. So I went back, and the cool thing was in business school, I didn't know anything about business, so everything was new, and I got to really absorb it, and I had no preconceived understanding of what it was like. So hopefully I learned quite a lot. I got to do an internship at the Staples Center, which was pretty amazing. That was 2002. And the Lakers were good back then. They had Kobe and Shaq, and so these photos are me at our victory parade after we won one of the world championships with Kobe and Shaq. And like you can see the confetti coming down. There's me and my boss, and it was really fun. I was working, for a sports organization, so I learned a lot. There's me and some of my colleagues. That's at graduation. That's us at a competition for business school. So there I was, having spent the previous 8 years doing precisely nothing productive other than getting my picture taken. And now I'm in business school around some really freakishly smart people, and figured out, hey, what I'm pretty good at is marketing things, selling things, telling stories. And that sort of led to this wild ride through my career, which has included Activision. Who's a gamer? I'm some of you guys are gamers, clearly, right? Yeah. You play Skylanders, I know. You own it. What do you guys play?
Smash.
What's that?
Smash Brothers.
Smash Brothers, okay, so Nintendo.
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, yeah. Call of Duty.
Destiny.
Destiny, you're playing Destiny. Do you like it?
Yeah.
Good game. Yeah. I was just leaving Activision when that game was sort of starting to be in development. My old boss was the worldwide marketing manager on that game. So it was fun. Did anybody ever play the Guitar Hero games?
Yeah.
Is that in your wheelhouse? Yeah, so I was a marketing manager on a lot of Guitar Hero games. I worked at Disney prior to that, and I got to do all these products, not so much the movies, but the TV shows that were hot at the time. This was mid-2000s, late 2000s. And that was really fun, working for the Mouse House. It's like, everybody should work for Disney once. You will learn so much. Don't stay longer than 5 years. It's really tough. And then Google and YouTube, and so I get to now work for this really cool digital company that kind of is working to change the world. So it's been a wild ride. It's funny. There's been some choices I've made that, through one lens, would look like mistakes. Like there was a company that's not on there because they're no longer around. It was a small consulting firm, really not a great fit for me. I spent not quite 3 years there, right out of business school. Hey, you know what? You make some choices. None of them, short of killing you, none of them are permanent. And I had a pretty good time there. I learned, hey, half of life is learning what you don't want to do. So it's okay to go do something, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll give you some very on-point career advice. It's okay to make some mistakes and do some stuff. Hey, look, not all the jobs are going to be super fun, right? Yes, is your work fun? It is now. There was some sucky jobs. And it's okay, right? You can make some mistakes. So there was a few false starts, but none of them were dead ends because they pushed me. Look, you either go towards what you like or you move away from something you don't like. And either one of those is fine. It gets you going. So it's been a pretty wild ride. Google, I mean, we talked a little bit about some of the things. The thing I love about my job, probably more than anything, is literally every day is different, and I never know what to expect. I work for some very crazy clients. I mean, these people are so demanding, but it pushes me to be the best I can be. And we have a universe of stuff that's just crazy. I mean, we hit on most of them maps, I guess, but we didn't even talk about, got Google Wallet payment systems. There's Picasso, which I think is folding into Google Plus. The Google Plus photo stuff is pretty powerful. All the messaging stuff, Hangouts. I'm trying to think of what else we have going on. Some stuff I can't talk about or shouldn't. Google Talk. Yeah, it's a pretty wild world there, and so I feel like I could be there a very long time. In fact, I'm in the process of kind of figuring out what's next after sales. After selling ads for a while, you're like, okay, I got it, I've sold ads. So it's time to do something new, and I don't know what that'll be, but we'll figure it out. So here's just some really quick fun facts. I was trying to think, okay, like if we're supposed to talk about career stuff, what was my first job? It was, well, it says moving lawns. That would be really hard. I think it's supposed to say mowing lawns. Moving lawns. It's mowing lawns. So like every kid in a small island in Seattle, like your first job is mowing someone's lawn. So that teaches you that you probably don't want to spend your life doing that if it can be avoided, because that's a lot of work. My worst job, however, was not mowing lawn. My worst job was I cleaned up the meat department at the after hours at the local supermarket. That was horrible. Actually, though, it wasn't as bad as you think, because I got to sit there and work by myself for 3 hours unsupervised and just like listen to music at full blast. And like, that's not the worst thing when you're like 15. And honestly, it's only in retrospect that I'm like, oh my god, I cleaned a meat department. I actually cleaned that. Like, it was stuff you would, if you saw the stuff I saw, we'd all be vegetarian. My coolest job is when I was in undergrad, when I was at University of Washington. I wrote for the school newspaper for years. I wrote for the school newspaper, so I got to be this like journalist. And do you think I had any training in that? Just telling stories. It's really cool. My first career, is commercial acting, modeling. My scariest career move was going back to school, because I went back to the school. I knew nothing about business. Like, okay, if you know nothing about business, should your move be to go to business school? I don't know. Most people would argue no. I thought it was a perfectly sensible thing to do, and I went and I learned a ton, and it moved me in a new direction. It was going to be hard for me to give birth to myself if I didn't have a little nudge. And 2 years of business school, really, that was the thing that moved me in the right direction. The best lesson is that it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, I would argue that it's critical. We spend a lot of time, I think, and I think there's a lot of pressure on young people today. Does it irk you? You tell me. Does it irk you when old people play the like back in the day card? I saw that. I got you. Like it was better back in the day, or you guys don't know how good you had, like all that crap. Let me tell you. It's never been a better time to be alive. Like when somebody tries to give me this jive about, well, it was better back. No. Yeah, no. If somebody, you have my carte blanche, you have my permission for the rest of however long you can use it. If some person my age or older tries to tell you it was better back in the day, I am here to tell you, there was some cool stuff back in the day, it wasn't better. We didn't have the internet, boom, it's already over, the argument's already over. We didn't have the internet, so we could stop talking, but if we want to keep talking, what I would say is, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all the ways to be entertained, we didn't have access to information the way we did now. I'm sorry, I wasn't as smart as you when I was 16 because I simply didn't have the access to information that you guys have. Now I'm presuming in this room that you use it, that access. The music wasn't as good. I'm sorry, I listen to electronic dance music today. I'm like, this is so much better than the crap we listen to. Things are generally better now. Now, having said that, I think I see a real almost fear in people your age that I get to know of making mistakes. Like, I think there's a lot of pressure on you to make really good choices all the time around like your career, or I want to be this, well, don't try that, it might fail. You know what? I'm not talking about life choices, like seriously, don't like stay out until 2 a.m. with shady people. I'm not talking about those choices. Make good choices there. What I'm talking about is your career, or your dreams, or your passions, or the things that really get you excited. Like, hey, I'm really, really into filmmaking. Oh, don't do that. Do you know how hard it is to be a filmmaker? Like, who's ever a filmmaker? Nobody wants to hear that. Let me tell you right now. Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to be making films, right? Oh, I really want to get into manufacturing. I really want to set up a company where we make products, and I want to start a factory in it. Yeah, oh, you know what? All of that's all been offshored to China. Nobody does that. You know what? Someone's got to do it. Someone's going to buy up cheap land right here in LA, and they're going to put a factory on it, and they're going to have a warehouse, and they're going to make a friggin' ton of money because they have the dream and passion to do it. And all these people are going to say, oh, dude, don't make a mistake, don't fail. Do the safe thing. Let me tell you now, when you're 16, when you're 20, when you're 25, you can make a lot of mistakes because you have no debt, you have no mortgage, no kid, no problems. Just do it. Take some crazy risks. The thing that this world needs is some people who have really, really cool ways of thinking and really big ideas and dreams that go after it. And if you guys are so afraid of making a mistake that you don't, you're actually robbing us of your big ideas and your big dreams. I don't even know what they are, but have one and go for it. The happiest I've ever been, you asked, like, do I have fun at work? Yeah, it's awesome. I work for YouTube. Like, literally, I can sit there and watch YouTube at work, and my boss is like, what you doing? I'm like, watching YouTube. I'm like, great, keep up the good work. Not a lot of places you can say that. A little advice about what comes next. And before I do that, because now's the part where I get to just sit up here like a professor and tell you what I think. Of the stuff I've said, does any of it sound legit? Is it all BS? Anything resonate with you? I mean, honestly, I could have just been spewing crap for like, how long have I been going? 35, 40 minutes? You can dive in here too. You can dive in. Like, any of this sound legit?
Risk taking is big. Yeah, you don't always know what you want to do, or you think you know what you want to do, right? And then
Question.
you're not sure.
Is it a personal question? Oh, okay, good.
How do you, like, when you said you know it's like, okay, I'm going to study ads, but like now you want to move on to something, how do you know what you're going to move on to?
That is a really good question. I don't, is the short answer. I have some ideas, but I don't know yet. So I'm in the process right now of figuring out what I can do from here that is exciting, uncomfortable, comfortably uncomfortable. Like if you go to something that feels too easy, like, oh, I know how to do that, so I'm going to do it. Don't do it. Don't do something you already know how to do. You know what I mean? Like, go to something where you feel a little uncomfortable and a little stretched. Like, ooh, I think I could do that, but I don't know, so let's just give it a shot. If you're moving to something, if you're here and you're moving to there and it's equally comfortable, you're not going to grow. Right? We tend to grow when we're put under pressure and a little bit of stress. So I'm looking for that thing that's a little uncomfortably exciting and takes what I'm already pretty good at and really delivers a lot of value to Google and my clients at Google. And so I have some ideas, and what I'm doing right now, so your question is really how do I know, or how am I going to find out? You just talk to a lot of people. We'll talk about that in this next section of like, how do you figure out what the heck it is you want to do with your life? Right now I'm in the process of talking to a lot of people in Google, mostly in Google, because I really want to stay there. I don't particularly want to leave. And just saying like, okay, here's what I'm good at. I'm good at these 3 things. I really dislike these 3 things. What do you think? And letting them tell me like, hey, here's some teams that could really use you. And you know, obviously you want to grow your income, so I'm looking at places that like have a path where I can make more money. That's important. But let me tell you, it's less important than you think. I have not yet, 42 years in, I have not yet met anybody who's made so much money doing it. They're making so much money that they're happy doing something that they don't like doing. They may tolerate it because it's making them pile of cash, or they may smile and grin and bear it, but they're not happy. And eventually that wears you down. So it needs to be something where I'm generally feeling like I'm making a difference, either to Google or to the world, or hopefully both. I don't know. I don't know what that is yet. I have some ideas, but maybe when I come back, I'll come back in like a year and I can tell you. Hopefully I'll be driving better car. Do you have a question? No?
Would you consider going back into modeling and
Good God, no. No, and you know the reason is partly because I wouldn't make as much money as I, you know, it would be a step in the wrong direction economically. It'd be a step in the wrong direction in terms of security. Like, I mean, unless I fundamentally blow it, I'm going to be employed for a while here, right? And there, I have no income security. It's just kind of like whoever hires you, hires you. And it stopped being fun. It stopped being challenging. Remember, I just told her, like, it needs to be uncomfortable. Like, you need to be stretched and put in a position to grow. Otherwise, you will just sit there every day being like, this. And when you're 25 and you're hanging out in Miami, and that's fun. When you're 42, that better not be fun. If it's fun for you at 42 to be doing the same thing you're doing